Welcome to Closet Conversations. Today I want to talk to you about some of the trends taking place in what is selling within consignment shops. What's been happening recently in our consignment shop in Pasadena, Walker Viden Luxury Consignment, is we are seeing more and more people come in with things that are not designer items that have been referred to us by other consignment shops where they have been turned away. And what's happening is that the inventory that they have is not designer. It's what I like to lovingly call mid-tier brands, brands no one's looking for. We have a luxury consignment shop, and there's an expectation that when you walk in, you're going to have luxury brands. So if you're going to call yourself luxury, and we debated, my business partner and I, do we want to put the word luxury in or not? And I'm like, yeah, we got to put it in. But the fact of the matter is, actually getting a store full of luxury, especially in the beginning, was a little more challenging than we thought. And so we put some other brands in there just to fill it up. And what happens is that people think that, if you've taken a brand from them once, that you'll take it from them again. And as our store has evolved and we have changed the brands that we take in, that can cause disappointment. And people don't always understand why you took a Coach bag one time and won't take it another. And so today what had happened is that a competing, I say competing, we all know each other, but a competing resale shop in Pasadena we're always referring to each other, so that's not the issue. But today someone had come in and we got to talking, and she brought in, what were the items, the brand? It was a bunch of Macy's brands, and then like a Peruvian Connection, and then a piece of Johnny Was. And based on what I saw, I didn't see anything that I wanted to take in. If it was a stretch, if I just had to have taken in something, I would have taken in the Johnny Was pants. But our store is completely jam full at the moment. And so we are really limiting what we're taking in because we're trying to get through all the inventory that's there. And we got to talking, and the woman had said how she normally consign it at a competing consignment shop in town, but that lately they haven't been taking her things, and she didn't understand why. She says, I don't understand. She's sold my things in the past, and now she doesn't want to take anything, and she's just turning away everything. And so I thought I would try you. And so I explained to her that I said, I don't think you should take it personally, but she's probably changing her selling strategy. And she looked at me very inquisitively. I can't say the word. She looked at me with that look, like, never thought about it that way. And she's like, maybe that's it. And I said, it's absolutely it, because I know who this is and I know what their plans are. And I said, all of us are struggling with the same issue. I said, there's too much out there now. There's just so much of it. And certainly with the Marie Kondo effect and the fact that it's January and everybody's purging, including me. And, consignment and resale is top of mind for a lot of people. There's been so many news articles out on it. And so they're thinking, well, I'll just consign, or I've consigned before, I'll consign again. But what has happened is that in the consignment area is that everyone is elevating what they're doing. Everyone is becoming more and more particular about what they're taking. And that means a lot more things are being turned away, which means usually, not always, but usually if you're turning away something, you're probably turning away almost everything that someone has brought in. And if you think about it, if this consignor has 20 things that aren't good and one thing that is, depending on what that one thing is do you really want to start a relationship with a consignor who's not going to be able to consistently bring you good things? And you might happen to have the one odd thing that pops up every now and then. And that isn't an ideal situation. So anyways, I explained to this woman that there's a lot changing, and I took a lot of time to explain to her why no one would want to sell a particular dress. I said, this is nothing personal, but nobody's looking for this dress. No one's looking for this brand. Everyone is looking for, labels. They're looking for labels at a discount. I said, something like this, if it sold, it would sell on style. I said, but, you know, I didn't want to say it wasn't a strong style. I just sort of left it because it was not a strong style. This is basically one of those dresses at Macy's that you find on the clearance rack that nobody has wanted, just like polyester made in China, you know, with some basic floral print on it and no sleeves. Like, it's just your basic dress. There's nothing wrong with it, just your basic dress. And nobody's coming into our consignment shop looking for that. They're looking for Louis Vuitton handbags. They're looking for Chanel handbags. They're looking for designer labels at a discount, like Ann Demeulemeister or Valentino, etc., etc. So there's no reason for me anymore to take in and muddy up my inventory with things that aren't designer. And so I'm turning away more and more things. And if I analyze the 4 consignment shops in Pasadena, all of us are focused on luxury, and there was one that had less of a focus on luxury clothing, but more of it like more luxury handbags, but took a lot of what I call mid-range things, and they are no longer around. And so there's nowhere for people in Pasadena to take these things. And so it's increasingly frustrating for them to try to cash in on what they have. And, it's sad news to be like, okay, well, probably your best option, if you're not going to try to sell it yourself, is just to go on and donate it. And I went on to explain there's no money in it. And that's the bottom line, is that it takes me the same amount of time to list a $50 pair of shorts or a $50 dress as it does a $500 one. And quite frankly, there's a glut out there. And one of the things I'm wrapping my head around is that as more and more people get into the reselling market, everyone doesn't want to actually resell their clothes themselves. They like the idea of recycling, but they don't want to do it, right? They want someone else to do it. So then the issue becomes, okay, there's all this stuff out there, and now what? Because, do you want an Evan Bacone blouse from the 80s? Do you want that? Do you want to try to flip that? Probably not, because nobody's really looking for that specifically. Is there someone who would consume that item? Absolutely, somewhere, somehow, but who's going to be the one to sell it to them? And so a lot of people, certainly people who are getting older, don't know technology. They don't know apps. They don't have the energy or the interest in selling themselves. You just can't say to someone who's 80 years old, oh, why don't you just download the Poshmark app and sell it yourself? Like, it's not realistic. And not to say they aren't capable, but most of them that talk to me say they don't want to do it. They don't know technology. They don't understand how all that works and aren't interested, but they still have all this stuff they need to get rid of. So this is the issue. We're all elevating what we're taking, which means all these people, what are they going to do with their stuff? They're going to have to donate it when they've heard so much about consigning and reselling all their stuff. So somebody was telling me about how they'd called The Real, and they came out to look at everything. And they said, okay, the woman had a list of brands, and that was it. She basically looked at everything, pulled out everything that was on her brand list, said we don't really deal in vintage, and that it would take 3 weeks. They would have to box up everything and ship it to their warehouse, and it would be 3 weeks before anybody could even look at it. So this is what he told me, and that sounds about right. So he was looking for alternatives, telling me about some other people coming over, asking about what our store would do. And he had, I think, 9 of those storage boxes that have like a rack in the middle of clothing that had to be dealt with. So, it was interesting for him to hear that, everyone's going to cherry pick. Nobody's going to take everything. And nobody wants to hear that, because the problem to solve is you have someone with all this stuff that they need to get rid of, and they would prefer to make one call and deal with it. What they don't want to do is make 3 and 4 calls and have 3 or 4 different people trying to deal with all of this stuff. So these are trends, and we took in an estate of 1,000 pieces recently. It was like 960 something in the end. So basically 1,000 pieces. And this was one closet. I say one closet. This was one person who had a number of closets, but one person, one closet in one house in LA. And we got 1,000 pieces. And so if you got to kind of wrap your head around that for a minute, and there were many things we didn't take because, again, we're focused on luxury, and there were certainly sellable things, but not something that would have been right for our store. But one person, 1,000 items. Now, multiply that by, okay, if you said just the households who could afford luxury, let's pretend it was just the 1% of the millions of households in LA who had closets like this that were available. I mean, you can't even grasp how many pieces these are, what it would take to sort them, to process them, and to put them back out on the marketplace. So there's no shortage. And there's no shortage of luxury. There's just no shortage. And so, everyone is kind of trying to figure out what to do about all this. And so this is a horrible problem and a wonderful opportunity. And all of us as resellers have got to think about where we fit into this. And so much of what we're doing is on such a small scale that when you think about the scale of a company like The Real Real or the scale of a company like ThredUp, and even they can't handle, they're growing exponentially. Like, they can't even deal with what's coming their way. And they're just getting started. Like, they're scratching the surface. So if everybody starts reselling and recycling, who's going to do that work? And everyone's not going to do it themselves, and everyone's not going to pull out a Poshmark app or post it on eBay or have any interest in that, which means the opportunity part of this is they're going to need someone to do it for them. And so I've been giving a lot of thought lately to not only scaling what I'm doing, but thinking about, well, how can I and everyone else, like the people who are listening here, how can you provide a service? How can you be a resource for this problem? What one person can do, digging around a thrift shop or digging around the bins, what one person can do is limited. And so you're always going to be limited to how much inventory you can find, how much inventory you can process, until you reach that breaking point where you're like, I can't do this alone. I have to start getting some help. And that's really the point at which a lot of people, get confused or unsure, should I invest money? Should I take my profits and pay someone else and all of this? There's been a number of videos on that, but it's a real issue. Is it, how do you scale? And at what point do you scale? And do you want to scale? I mean, are you happy just getting a few things and having a little bit on the side, or do you want to try to do this full time? And if you do it full time, how big do you want to get? I've never seen an industry more ripe with opportunity than reselling, consigning, flipping, whatever you want to call it. And, all of us individually is one level of energy, and all of us collectively is quite something else, which is why I'm so focused on bringing people together that are doing this, because I feel like somewhere in all of this there's going to be some secret sauce or something to come out of that that's going to make sense, that can make us more of a force in tackling all of this. There are a lot of statistics out there. If you just Google The Real Real, I mean, they always talk about them, and then they always give a bunch of statistics about what's happening in the industry, and the billions and billions of dollars of what's happening already, and then the potential is just, infinitely large, as they say. And just goes to show that now that this is a thing, it's an official thing, this reselling and consigning. I think that as you go about, and this is what I'm doing, as you go about this process of getting it all organized and making sense of it all, is, thinking about scaling and thinking about, well, where do you want to take it? At what level? And everyone seems to be really interested in, how do I go full time? How can I be a full-time reseller? Because, it's a very different way to work than being in an office. I've had plenty of office jobs. This is very different. Um, but it isn't about how do I go full time, really. It's about how do I have consistent income. And that's just putting it out there because there are so many ebbs and flows. And that's my reselling business. That's my consignment business. I mean, sometimes it's feast, sometimes it's famine, and you're just shaking your head and you're like, what do I do to stabilize? What is the thing I can do to have consistent income? So within all of this problem and opportunity is trying to find a way to tackle it that gives you some sort of stable and regular income when you're dealing with one-of-a-kind items, mostly if you're reselling, not if you're like buying wholesale, but you have one-of-a-kind items you're trying to give a home to. You're trying to figure out how to curate it all so it makes sense when it's attractive to people. You're trying to figure out what to buy because you have many things you tried that didn't move, even though someone on YouTube said they should, like all my Lafayette 148 blazers. Oh, we're all just trying to figure it out. And I think as you wrestle with what to do and how to scale it, here's where I am with it. Where I am with it is I'm really good at avoiding things. I'm quite excellent at avoidance. I'm a master. As a matter of fact, I get 5-star rating for that. And what I'm talking about is that I have all this inventory here. So many things need to be gotten rid of. So many things need to be rephotographed. And this Poshmark love and list challenge that's going on is actually forcing me to do some, I say forcing, but incentivizing me to do some things I've been putting off. But it has me really, really now focused on, okay, now that I'm relisting things and really analyzing my inventory, like those Lafayette 148 blazers, it really makes me realize that I have got to quit sourcing and spend more time reworking what I have. And tonight I had a sale on Poshmark for a Bird by Juicy jacket that I had like forever. I tried to sell it on Poshmark, on ThreadUp, and they sent it back, and I'd had on Poshmark, and I had bad photos, and it got really low to like $30. And it was one of these things that I knew was a good piece, and I finally rephotographed it and relisted it. And just tonight I got an offer for $75 and I sold it. And I had a dress I mentioned in another podcast I had relisted that had gotten down to like $20, $30. That was Karen Millen. I'd reposted it, new photos, and it sold, and I took a $100 offer on it. And to me, that is a wonderful example of how just really fine-tuning and tweaking and really working what inventory you have to its best advantage makes a lot of sense. And for me to have, gone to the Goodwills again and walked through and bought, 5 more things to have to deal with when I haven't properly dealt with what I have. And it's the avoidance issue because I don't actually want to do all that. I would like to wave a magic wand and have a genie come in here and fix all that. That's not going to happen. And so it's up to me to do it. It's up to me to fix it. It's up to me to stay focused, which is very hard for me because I'm undiagnosed ADD. I'm all over the place. So I'm saying things are actually very difficult for me to do, which is to stay focused and work with the inventory that I have. But that is absolutely what I've got to do. And tonight, just realizing as I refresh and rephotograph, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I would never buy again. And I have got to do the thing that I just told the woman to do in my store, which is to donate it, to get rid of it and move on. And it is hard to do when you know there's money in there. But you know what? Gotta let it go. Gotta let it go. Move on and call it a day. And for me, because I have this showroom within where I live, as well as one entire bedroom that is all storage of reselling inventory, for me, so much is presentation. And so the whole front part of the showroom is all beautifully organized vintage Moschino and beautiful hangers and everything looks la la la. But in the back, it's, nobody gets to see that for a reason. Because you don't want to know what's going in there. It is not beautifully organized. And I feel like if I would just get rid of so much that hasn't sold and better organize and better curate what's there, that everything is going to be better for me. So that is something that I am working on actively. It's a work in progress. And you can kind of see a little bit of my progress if you go to my Poshmark closet, JennieGirl's closet, but it's just JennieGirl's Claws, CLOS. They don't have room for the ET on there. You can kind of see what I'm doing. And there's about 4 or 5 generations of photos. And I'm trying to get it down to 1 generation. So there's photos where I had, the hanger on the back of the door. There was photographs where I had it in the living room of my old apartment, and you could see edges of furniture. There's photographs where I had it in my New York apartment where you can see the side of my bed. There's photographs before I centered photos on this pink painting that I use now, and it was to the side. Then there's photos before I used the pink picture at all that's just white on the background. You get the picture. And so I have been working really hard to identify all the pieces that are not photographed on the pink photo background and get those corrected. And then once I do, it'll be really, really consistent in the closet. And then all of these shoes and handbags, accessories are in a light box. So where I haven't done that, and I have accessories, not too many, but they're just like on like black velvet or something, I'm trying to get all those fixed as well. So if you look around in my closet, you can kind of see where I'm headed with that. And I'm going to be so excited when I'm done. And that's it. Just a little stream of consciousness tonight about the changes in what's selling at consignment shops, and a little more thought on, curating and getting rid of stuff that you're not using, and absolutely reworking what you already have to its best advantage. And that's it. This is Jennie Walker with Closet Conversations. If you like what you heard tonight, please be sure and subscribe. Leave 5-star reviews, some comments. Always love hearing from people. You can check out my eBay store and my Poshmark closet and all those things. If you go to Instagram under JennieGirl's Closet, the Linktree link will take you to everything. My website, where you can sign up for my new newsletter that I've started for resellers. You can have a link to everything on Linktree, all the social media, all the shopping sites and things like that. And that's it. I appreciate your support so much, and I look forward to having you with me on a future episode. If you like the song that introed tonight, it's called Black Hat, performed by Jennie Walker and written by Jennie Walker and Tommy Farragher. It's available on iTunes worldwide now.